everybody. We all have been facing the tough phase of the pandemic, which has prevalent in our society and doing very harms to the families. But amidst that, the something, as our director ma'am today in the conclave also said, something to distract so that we can move something in positive manner. And the knowledge is never-ending process. And to proceed with the same, today we have Mr. Abhishek Singh, Deputy General Manager, Business Development Strides Pharma, amongst us, to give an expert talk to our students for their benefit. I welcome you, sir. So before he starts, I would just like to give a brief profile of his. He's a pharmacy graduate from MD University Rohtak, an MBA in pharmaceutical marketing from Naipur Mohali. I guess Naipur Mohali is the dream of every student who's aspiring to be a pharma successful person. And he has over 11 years of work experience in healthcare strategy implementation at various companies like IQVIA, Abbott, India, and MCure. Currently, he is a part of the business development department at Strides Pharma, where he's working on global in-licensing projects. He's taking care of portfolio management and licensing business at Strides and also hold responsibility for Strides China operation. Since everything is virtual, so we have a virtual bouquet for you, sir. Kindly accept this as a welcome note.
Thanks a lot. Yeah.
So I should not get in between you and the students. So I would just request you to please carry on with your talk, sir. You're welcome on the board.
Okay. So good. So first of all, a very good afternoon to everyone. And I see a very good attendance. So I'm really very much thrilled to interact with the students. So I see more than 1995 students. So it becomes much more responsible for me. So I would be either wasting 95 hours, I would be making best use of it. Yeah. So good. So thanks for the wonderful introduction, Dr. Kumar. So I'll start my session without wasting time. So before I move ahead with my topic, and so I'll just like to make a pretext, like what this session is about. And I don't want this to be again because a session with a lot of industry jargons or something, but I want this to be more interactive because I'm not a too old industry veteran who would not understand what's going on in your mind. So the more questions you ask, and I'll try to address the most of it, that would be the best thing about the session. And the topic what I have chosen is only for the purpose that you get a base to start the discussion and ask as much questions as possible. So what I can answer to the best extent is, Dr. Kumud, if you can help me with the next slide. Sorry, I would keep you bothering you. So
no, it's okay, sir. I'm there. Please don't worry.
Okay. So once we end the session, so my aim would be that you would have a gist and a bit of, you'd already been knowing global pharma dynamics. I'll try to add something to that. And then how can Indian workforce, which is the Indian pharma workforce, is like you and me, how can we improvise on ourselves with the changes which are coming up? And certainly, whatever I'll be speaking on, I'll try to link that with your academic knowledge and my professional knowledge or the industry knowledge, how this can match up and where you can be a gap filler. So I'll try to do that. And then how would Indian pharma evolve? Like we all together can discuss and see how it would look like in 2030. That is the time when most of you would be there already in the industry. And a bit of core pharma and KPO consulting space. So because I know when we start our career, so these are the two industries which is there, like upfront, they reach out to us. So one is our core manufacturing pharma and the KPO consulting. So a bit of merits and demerits, just because I have worked in both of them. IQVIA, the same, the previous name for that was IMS Health. So they are one of the global leading sales and prescription audit data source company. So in my tenure of 11, 12 years, so it's like half of the time I've spent in consulting industry and half of them it was in the manufacturing industry. So I can take those questions as well and help you guide, advise. So which one is good, bad, it's in terms of how you look at it. And then while we would be talking, these terms you are already familiar uh, with such a great institute and such a great management. So I know most of the content you would be knowing. I would be just trying to bridge that with some industry knowledge, how things are happening in industry. So CMO, CDMO, CRO, these terms I'll be touching with, like what are the prospects and opportunities from industry point of view. And then out of all this, what are the opportunities coming up and the skills required. Yeah. So Dr. Kumar, if you can help me with the next slide. Yeah.
Yes, sir, sure. Just
Yeah.
give a second.
Good. So, so let me start with what's happening around globally. So if I have to start with about global pharma industry, you'll see that US stands at one place, which is like always when we start analyzing something, we look at the total revenues, how much money is sitting on it. So if you look from that perspective, it's US who would be leading. Then it would be Europe. Europe again, very fragmented, so many countries. So it's largely the five EUs, which is your UK, Germany, Italy, France, Spain, and then Japan. So these are the regulated markets which like drive most of the revenue of or global pharmaceutical market. So there is a shift happening in this. That's the reason I thought to touch base on this. Most of the Indian companies in the late 90s started going towards US because there we were getting a better prices. Any of the companies with whom I was associated in past. So everyone, I mean, like the top 15, 20 companies, the major growth driver for them is the US. And as on date, while we are talking, is still the US. So that's primarily because we get a better price for the same product compared to vis-a-vis the other markets. Over the time, what has happened, US is now looking back at, because due to these things, looking at generic products from India, what has happened in US is most of the manufacturing facilities have either shut down or they have migrated. So now US is also looking back to, they are putting a lot of restrictions on Indian products. So they don't do it directly. You can see that like in the last previous couple of years, none of the top 10 or 15 pharma companies were spared, and most of them had got either some observation or 483 observations or warning letter. This I'm referring to when US FDA comes for an inspection of FDA approved manufacturing units in India. So that's a lever what US has still holds. So a lot of warning letters coming up in last 2 3 years, that clearly that's very strategic. That's happening because they want to move the manufacturing base in US and want the US companies to be competitive. So apparently what has Indian pharma started doing uh, as a measure to counter this is they have started looking far east, which is Indian companies have now started moving towards China. They have started deepening their footprints in most of the European countries, Middle East, and also. So even I mean, like most of them, like in my personal experience, I have worked in a couple of those roles. That the shift is happening. So all what I want to say is the shift is happening. So I'll state that with a simple number. If you look at US pharma market, US pharma market is generally 430 or 440 billion US dollars. And out of that, 25 to 26% is the generic products. That is where we belong. So Indian pharma in totality, barring one or two molecules, something here and there, we are 98% a generic manufacturing house. So out of 430, 440 billion dollars, it was only 25, 26%, which was generic market where we were playing in US. And we were able to build that empire of Indian pharma industry, which is now the pharmacy of the globe. So the total market, what we were catering was around 100 billion US dollar. If I compare that with the China in total is a $150 billion market in total, which is fairly less than US. But the good thing is 75 to 78% of the China market is generic. So if you just calculate this, and you'll find that the generic market in US and in China is almost the same as about 90 to 100 billion dollar. So this has been realized by many Indian companies, and it's not just about China, because I'm taking a mention of China just because Indian pharma companies, there is no one who is having a successful business in China except for the earliest joint venture was of Renbaxy, which happened with a Chinese company. They struggled for 10 years, but they were not able to do anything. So as on date, while we are talking, it's only Dr. Reddy's which is selling something in China, barring one or two here and there. Some companies are trying to do, but formally it's only Reddy's. Despite this market always existed, this $100 billion market always existed in our neighborhood, we never tried to cope up with. There were challenges said unsaid with China market, but as a strategy, now Indian companies have started putting in money. Not only Indian, the whole global pharma has started putting in money and investing in all the Far East companies, be it Korea, be it Japan, be it China. So this shift has started to happen. This is one bit of it. So I'll just address, because pharma industry is very dynamic. I cannot, and it's beyond my capacity also to flag all the changes what's happening. I'll flag just two three changes which are recent, and how do they impact us. This is one such. Second is the API and KSM and intermediate part. I'll tell you, KSM, for those who would already know, KSM is just key starting material. This is the very first chemical moiety entity from which you start to develop the product. You take the KSM, it would be as simple as maybe some toluene, aniline, something like that, a little complex from there. And then you make the API using a lot of intermediate steps and synthesis. As of now, if you'll see globally, the entire KSM API intermediate and even the finished formulations, generic, this whole space is dominated by just two countries. That's us and China. China leads in KSM, API, and intermediates. However, we lead in finished doses formulations. So if I have to say about China, doesn't have that ability to make finished doses formulations of like the novel NDDS, what we can very easily make in India. So now what has started happening, despite we can make finished formulation in India, but most of our APIs use one or the either KSM or intermediate from China. So that's where the bottleneck is. So apparently China still controls most of our finished doses formulation, despite we have the best pharma professionals, despite we have the best technology, but we don't have the KSM API and intermediate. This might be due to some policies, so the government interventions are not going that. But thankfully, now government has started looking at it. There were a lot of companies in India who were making a lot of APIs in-house within the country. But because Chinese products started floating in the market, they were cheaper, our factories had to shut down. And they didn't get the expected amount of funds from the government to sustain. And a lot of them shut down. So I'll just name two companies. Whenever you have time, you can go out and visit the websites of these companies. And that's a very interesting case study. And there's a very good thing to learn for everyone. There is a company named Virchow Biotech and IOL. IOL makes ibuprofen. Virchow Biotech makes sulfamethoxazole and trimethoprim, and basic antibiotic, which we call Septran, a branded name from GSK. So these two companies, what they have done, earlier China was holding like 70 to 80% of the market of sulfamethoxazole and trimethoprim, and Indian companies were shutting down. This small Hyderabad company, Virchow, they just stood up and they said, it is not going to happen to us. We are not going to shut down. And uh, they were so efficient in making the product. Because everything end of the day zeroes down to how much cheaper you are. And this company was even using the AC water back into the system. This is just to mention that how much productive they were. And the prices of this API, what they made finally, was like good 20-30% cheaper than China. And as on date, while we are talking, this company holds 70 to 80% of sulfamethoxazole and trimethoprim market, global market. And Chinese companies had to shut their doors. They were stopped just because they're not able to compete with them. But it's very unfortunate. We only have just 2 or 3 examples in India for this. But in all other APIs, in fact, we had to shut down compared to China. But now what has happened in last 1 or 2 years, due to government incentivization and uh, even global preference towards looking towards India, the API intermediate and KSM companies have started mushrooming like anything. You'll you go out in Hyderabad, you go out in Gujarat, you'll find so many players and so many new companies which are going to come up. So here, it once companies come in, it opens an opportunity for us. So we can understand. See, tomorrow, once we'd be out in the market, our preference would be to work in a certain role. But in terms of opportunity, certainly 30% to 40% opportunities in market would be in API. It's very certain because while now I would say, there were like roughly 58, 59 APIs which government has incentivized. And I think all the projects have been approved as of now. And there are these many companies who have started building the plants for this. So this is the second point which I wanted to touch. Third point is, you would have recently seen a lot of deals happening. You would have heard about Remdesivir in this COVID time. Then you heard about this Covishield vaccine. And then recently you would have seen Molnupiravir. So what are these? This is actually, my day-to-day job role profile, which you just, Dr. Kumar just mentioned. Like I do in licensing. So I'll just touch base this as well. Earlier, it was not so easy to get. So what is Remdesivir? Remdesivir is a molecule made by Gilead. They made it, and they know the time span to sell this is limited. The market, around the Remdesivir was never made for this COVID thing. But interestingly, it has started, got its use. It's again debatable. I'll not go in that. But I'll look at the philosophy of immediately Gilead didn't waste a single day and cooperated with 5 Indian giant CMOs, the Hetero, Jubilant, Cipla. For what? They gave the technology. And in fact, they didn't give the rights to sell it any other country. They just gave you to make it. They got a few things processed. They just got the rights to manufacture it. And 5 of them are making it and selling it. So the trend of these kind of licensing deals have in last few months have gone up like crazy. So now you see Molnupiravir, where MSD is signing up with 4 or 5 companies. There are so many molecules which are now coming up in India with cooperation and tie-ups. So at one point in time where Indian pharma is gearing for KSM API intermediate, which is very basic, very basic. If you would have seen a KSM and intermediate plant, it is as basic as they would be making soda ash or kind of, it's a very chemical factory thing. It's a very starting molecule. So you'll not find that stringent GMP. It not be so polished thing, not even the professionals working there. But at the same time, when I talk about these licensing deals where you are making Molnupiravir and Remdesivir and number of deals increasing, so India is being regarded as home for both the things. One, the low-end chemical entities and the higher-end molecules. So with this changing dynamics, as we move through our slides, so there is just one more point in the API, just to add, I see here. So there are so many recalls happening on the APIs because when China was dominating this market, sartans mostly come from China. So be it irbesartan, losartan, valsartan, all of them were having nitrosamine impurities. And they were selling it from like ages. And now what has happened? The recalls are coming up, the impurities are coming up. So globally, the US, the European companies are now looking at for a new source for APIs. So at this point in time, if India emerges up as an API house, because India has been known for supplying a quality product, but we were not delivering a lot of exports in API. But with so many drug recalls happening, world is looking at us, and companies have started taking up these all the major APIs which are having a bigger market. So in all, this all gives up boom up, like how the market will open up. So I'll address this how we can go and fit in the next slide. Dr. Kumud, if you can help.
Yes, sure, sure.
So sorry, it's becoming a one-way dialect. So
That's
I'll
okay.
just so uh, how do we want to take it? So I complete this and then we start with the Q&A, or how would
Yeah,
you
that
advise,
would
Dr.
be
Kumud? Okay,
that would be better, sir.
okay. So quickly, so okay, now coming back to, once we now we understood, like, okay, what's happening in the dynamic space and how the world is shifting and how it would help us. When all this is happening, uh, so the two industries, I'll split our pharma industry into two bit. One is the core pharma, where the product is being manufactured. It's the place where you dirty your hand. I mean, like, not a very good use of word over here, but it's the place where the real work is happening. You make the product, you go into the lab, you do that wet chemistry, you develop the product, and then there is a manufacturing happening. Someone is there busy spending hours day and night, and then there is a supply chain. There's an entire value chain for this. So this I call core pharma. There would be so many levels. You're procuring so many things, and then you go out and sell, you strategize, and then finally a sales happen, your one product is sold. So many stakeholders and so many levels coming in. So as a fresher, when you are listening to the session, I mean, like, see, it would only make sense to you wherein I'm fitting in. So in a core pharma, we all need to understand that what are the places, because see, there are only few places where a fresher can enter. The team is not going to take everyone in all the roles. That's most important. Someone would not be being taken at if there is a someone is making pilot study, uh, conducting it, or they are making something very technical. So even the companies would be hesitant to put in a fresher even in the team to help out on the data thing. Also, they will at least want someone with 4 to 5 years work ex. That's how they look at it. But something where the chance of mistake or it's not so huge, they will prefer to. So very first thing in the core pharma, let's quickly segregate where are the freshers going in, and that's where we can focus on it. So when I start with, I'll quickly do that supply chain. You all would have read and studied, but few points which I see, like, so if I segregate it, there would be an API company, there would be a finished formulation making company, and then there would be a marketing company. Some of the roles which we skip is, the very first role is demand planning. So I'm only taking the ones which usually gets ignored. Rest of the things you guys know, I am aware about that. So demand planning is one department wherein it's basically a supply chain department which takes care of uh, which does multiple things. One is looking at where can I get the right API, which vendor I can get it from. It's purely a desktop research. You go out on the desktop, you look at some of the databases, and you get a hand holding in 1 month. And so, for example, I'll use an example here. There is a data set like exim. Exim is nothing, just import and export data. In short form, we call it exim. So someone needs to just sit, take an exim data, and scroll it up and down. Who are the companies selling the packaging material, uh, anything, even the API, the intermediate, whatever is being exported from India is being tracked in that exim data. So there would be someone in the team who would be going on, because no one senior would be sitting up and doing that juggling exercise. There is always a 3 4 freshers team in the demand planning team or the strategic sourcing team. This is one department I wanted to touch. So if you get a hand holding on exim data is very cheaper. I mean, like, 4 guys can pool in money, is just cost 15,000, 20,000. And in fact, if you guys want to add, you can add such type of data analytics in your course or extracurricular, whatever. It's a very cheap data. You get that and you just start working on that. So you never get me like, and when I was in my academics, I never knew something like that existed. I only knew IMS ka data hota hai and like so costly, it costs us in crores and millions. So we never had a hand-on experience on IMS data. But exim is something, export import India data is so cheap, like you can get that. So you make a group, you get that data, and in that you will very clearly see which are the companies they are exporting which molecule to which, and both ways you will get the data, which are the global companies who are exporting, and that would become an import data for us. That's so rich data that once you look at it and you just use some pivot table and you just analyze which are the leading molecules being exported from India, you pick up a company, suppose you are giving an interview of say Sun Pharma, you select that Sun Pharma from that, and then you see what is Sun Pharma exporting. You'll clearly see there are 20 molecules they are exporting. And now it is not the superficial information you have the numbers there, what is the value sitting in. So you work on that and you would be much more prepared than anyone else who would be sitting in the interview. So this is one way wherein, I mean, like once we go into the question and answer session, I mean, like then I can address a couple of more things wherein you would be more equipped and ready to address the questions. I don't believe in doing trainings and I mean, like taking additional courses outside what you are doing there. It's more of you spend in your own time, but you should get like you. I understand you are already getting a lot of sessions from the industry. You just see that where something you can do on your own. So if that was one for strategic sourcing and supply chain, and then if I have to talk about say bioequivalence studies and B data, you need to look at the CRO data. So there is no as such CRO data, but see, I'll tell you, every country has a clinical trial registry. US has a clinical trial.gov, which is a public domain website. Anyone at any point in time just open clinical trial.gov and look at. So everyone is talking about remdesivir, whether it is effective or not effective. You can go out at clinicaltrial.gov and just open it and see if there is any phase 3 clinical trial which has been done directly on COVID patients or not. So this is about your general awareness. But when it comes to your applying for a CRO role, in India, a lot of people don't know that there is CTRI, Clinical Trial Registry of India. That's again a public domain open website. You open that website and any single clinical trial happening in India has to be uploaded on that website. That's a norm. So you have an access. Who is developing what? Everyone has the access. You can go out and look at that, and then you would be pretty aware that okay, which are the trials and which CRO company is involved on it. So this can help you, like when you are searching for a company, which company to apply for, which is the good CRO, you look at the trial. Okay, this trial is ongoing. You see that you'll find all the details there. What is the study, who is conducting, who is the sponsor and everything, and you apply for the relevant thing in that CRO. And if you get a chance, so I mean, like saying is always easier, but I mean, like if you get a chance, then at least it would be your best shot. And you'll talk about that, like okay, so this is the study, I studied this, and the company is engaged in this and that. So whatever the role is, first is if you identify co-pharma, split it down into where are the departments wherein freshers can go, and then break down that department into what exactly my role would be there in industry. So and then if there is something which I'm sure, I mean, like you cannot do everything and be like industry ready, that's very difficult, but at least you can come closer. So wherever there is a space, at least you will sound closer, right? I mean, like in one of my session earlier, I was just mentioning I spent some time living in Mumbai. So it's a short story, I'll so take some time. So when you see a local train, there are a lot of people, it's like who gets in the local train, it's very difficult, and in the peak hours. So I was wondering, once I saw there is a guy who was standing right at the gate, train was about to come, and this guy, what he did, he took out his backpack, he took it in the front, he just tucked up his sleeves, he was just ready, and everyone was looking at his drama, whatever he was doing, and he was like, everyone was looking at it, hey boss, chadega to yahi pehle, because it was his preparedness. We all were standing there and we just prepared our mind that, boss, this guy is more ready than us. So, and when the train came, actually, this guy didn't have to run also. We had almost given up because this person was so much prepared. He started jogging. He started like we thought, my God, so ye to chadega hi chadega types. And then the train came and we looked at the different door. Let's leave it for him. And then he walked in like peacefully. So something like that when it comes to interview, when it comes to preparing for it. So the industry sessions, and you should always try to connect your academic and industry thing, and it should be very specific on, this is the role. Okay, this my role is, if I'm trying about a sales role, it wherein what does the industry does. Okay, if it is an sales role, I'll have to do a call reporting. Okay, what is the platform that industry uses for call reporting? How many calls usually a representative does? And what are the platforms you'll see on the net? Okay, so there is a salesforce.com, or there are some IT platforms. So you can read about those. And even whenever you are giving an interview, you sound a little better than others. You use the terminology which is very correlated and which can echo or resonate with the industry guy. That's the time, because getting an opportunity to face an interviewer is very, very limited. I mean, like, it's not so abundant. So you need to be ready. So that's my whole objective. And I'll request you all to, whenever once we start the question answer, you can raise up your specific questions, and I'll be happy to, I'll try, in fact, to address most of those. So, Dr. Kumud, if you can help me with the next slide. Yeah. So this was the core company where we were doing manufacturing, and there were the steps in that. Then there is this KPO consulting. India, as of now, has become a consulting hub. That's because the analysts who are sitting in US and Europe, they charge like 500 or 600 US dollars per hour. But when it comes to Indian company, it would be $20 per hour or $40 per hour, not more than that, which is like 10 times cheaper. So you'd be aware, Novartis has opened its KPO in India. Eli Lilly has its KPO in India. Merck has its KPO in India, in Pune. Allergan has its KPO in India. So there are many who have started opening, or they have, Novo Nordisk has its KPO in India. So I left this consulting space some 5-6 years back. So now I think there would be more than, I mean, like 8-10, another name. I remember Sandoz has also opened its office separately from Novartis. So KPO and consulting in India, they have like, and this is the place where most of the freshers usually go, because these companies have a bandwidth to put up the fresher on the training program. They can wait, because see why? Because this is a service industry. You need to understand the ideology. The core pharma is the product based industry. Their product is an asset. If I have a molecule, my molecule is an asset, my brand is an asset. An employee A, B, C, D doesn't matter much. It would be just for the HR that this employee matters. One of my previous company, the owner used to say, if you go, someone who would come, he would always be better than you. This is the perspective what core company has, and it's true also. So there you will not find a backup. You will not find two persons doing the same thing. Like, if I'm responsible for something at my company, there is no one else. If I'm on leave, there is no one doing my job. That job is getting hampered. So this is about core pharma. They would not put in their money for an extra resource for some scenarios like now this COVID. They will never do that. They'll be chasing each and every dollar what they are doing it. Other than that, at the same time, KPO Consulting, they have a bench of people. This is very same as how the IT companies do. They are also a service company. These KPO Consultings in the pharma space are service company. In these companies, there is no product. It's us who are the product. We work on, so we work for a consulting company. We work for 5 years. We understand the what do you call it? I'm not getting the right word. Maybe the engagement manager or the clients or the in-house team. So once you know it, so in service industry, whosoever can understand the requirement best and deliver. He is the product. So when you become the product, I remember my days when I was with IQV. I should not mention the name, but like in KPO Consulting, what happens if you have an ache in your leg, they'll come with a cushion, because it's, unless you are feeling better, you'll not be able to deliver on the slides. You'll not be able to deliver, use your brain and put it. So employees, everything there. So what happens there? They always have a bench of people. They'll have a, they've always work in a team. There would always be 5 6 people working on one project. And whenever one person, because timelines there are like deadlocks, like, okay, these are the times where you have to deliver, you cannot move out of that, because those are committed to clients, so you cannot move away. So what happens, they do all this risk management exercise, and they keep people on bench whenever someone is sick or something. So why I'm going into all this is, this is the place where they give ample opportunity for fresher to learn, because when they are preparing the bench, they will always prepare like 2 3 freshers, put it in the team, and they would be just shadowing the person who is working. Also, they also plan for this, because the attrition rate in service industry is very high. Tomorrow, if a person who is working with 10 clients leaves, he goes with the project. So that's the reason they would always shadow him with 2 junior fellows, and who will learn the job. And if the first guy leaves, at least they will take it up from there. So KPO Consulting is a very easy access for freshers to get a job in it. And so when I started, so these are just the names of various type of projects. So I mean, like, I've just mentioned the names because each one of them would need like a whole separate session what it is about. But in nutshell, so it's all virtual, and KPO Consulting works for the, I'll say, they never work for a generic company. They would always work for a patented companies, like patented product companies, I'd say, uh, be it J&J, be it Abbott, be it Merck, and all those, because those are the ones who can pay for the cost what these guys want. And none of the Indian companies work with KPO Consulting on their projects. So they don't, the generic companies don't have the bandwidth. So all these projects you see, like Salesforce effectiveness, cost optimization, these are just the names, and there would be many more different type of projects, because every project is different. So this is one space where we all should target on and look at how we can get an entry. This is an easy space for the freshers to get in. In fact, I started my career with the KPO consulting industry, and people used to say me, once you go in consulting, so I'll address a very kiddish question during my academics, uh, during my graduations rather. So that once you start with KPO, उसी में रह जाओगे, you would be able to be in that. You cannot go to core pharma, and then uh, there is more scope in this. You go in production, you'll spend your life in production. तू उसे बाहर ही नहीं आ सकता. So there are so many questions which would be there, and you all know about it. I've also been through all that. But what I believe in, when someone, a fresher, calls me from my institute, so they call, sir, ये company का package बहुत छोटा है, इसका तो सिर्फ package sir वो 2 लाख ही दे रहा है. What to do? And so what I tell him is that is not the package which matters. It's always what is your strategy about yourself. Getting an entry is important, whatever it is. And once you move on, you should be clear in your mind that what I'm doing and how I have to move on. You might get an opportunity in the same direction, maybe a little later, but if you are firm, see, I was working for a consulting, I wanted to go for a core company, and then I switched and I moved to Abbott India. So it was not like that I got it this opportunity on plate, but I was trying for it. And not only me, many others have also done this. A lot of my friends were in sales, which is a lot of people have a very different opinion about sales. But like sales, if you start, you never be able to go to head office. But no, it's not like that. So a lot of my friends, yes, 80% I have seen, if you are in sales, you remain in sales. You're not able to move to the HO. It's because you are among the same group and crowd, and you lose your objective. So if you are firm and you know strategically how and where I have to move, and if you want to move to HO, there are a lot of like I put it as blind spots. there are some blind spots where in the pharma industry, in the KPO industry, which not many people know. And if you very like you go out and do a PMP course, which is project management professionals, you work for 4 or 5 years in sales or something, and then you appear for this PMP, which is a US organization. And once you do a PMP, that's a project management professional, you will see on LinkedIn, you'll be seeing people's name, and that comes with the title. It's like a certified thing. So you're a certified project manager, and project management is something anyone can do. And when you have been in field, you can do it the best. So there are always ways how you can leap over, how you can switch the gear from one place to another. So never be looking at like what I have got now. uh, I have only got these many companies in placement. We are only getting this, which is not very good. Never look at that. Always plan yourself for 5 years. So look at yourself where I would be in 5 years, and see this salary and everything. It's a hockey stick graph. If you have planned it well, so in 5 years you'll see it would be a hockey. It never goes like this. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It is not. It is exponential. If you have planned it well, after 5, 6 years, you will see a jump, and it would be a hockey stick. So don't look at salary. Don't look at your starting job. But you just enter the industry, and then be focused what you have to shape yourself. So, Dr. Kumar, if you can help me with the other
Yes,
side.
sure. Just a second.
I'm not sure if I'm boring because I can't.
No.
Okay.
Your lecture is really so much informative. I mean, I suppose students are taking the insight from actual marketing industry.
Okay. So yeah, you can pitch in at least wherever, I mean, like if you want me to. So yeah, so this is something same which I have already addressed. If in the Q&A, if the group wants to understand more about KPO consulting, so then I can take these questions. I mean, like what it is about and kaise kaam hota hai. I mean, like, see, I don't mind. So I can use the language English. I can use the language Hindi. My entire gist is this 100 total hours what we are spending in whatever. I mean, like you should understand it better, because there might be some terminologies which you can't understand. मैं उसको हिंदी में अच्छे से समझा दूंगा कि ऐसे नहीं ऐसे होता है, because industry jargons are sometimes difficult to absorb. So yeah, so if you can help Dr. Kumar, very happy for that. At least Q&A is there. Yeah.
So good. Quite wonderful session. Like yeah, please carry on, sir. Please carry on.
So I was just starting the same thing. So I'll be more interested, because see, on the same points I can keep on speaking, because now it's a different time wherein. So I think someone has just asked a question. Thanks for that. So elaborate. Just a second.
Shall I read out, sir?
Yeah, please. That would be.
Yeah, like it's question like, please elaborate what actually happened with nitrosamine impurities due to which recalling was done.
Okay. See, nitrosamine impurity is NMDA impurities are there. So this is basically a class of impurity, nitrosamine. So whenever there is a drug, suppose I'll take an example of this same product, metformin. So there are set kind of impurities which have been observed in the stability, in the various studies and analytics what have been done while developing that product. So there are impurity A, B, C, D, E, F. Those are defined in the monographs. Those are defined while working on the molecules and developing the tests for that. But what happens, and when you find that your product is within the limit of the standards which were defined. The impurity A is always being found in this kind of molecule because of the nature of that, and it should not cross this limit. And if the product is within that limit, that is what the COA is about. So you sign the COA and the product is released. What has started happening now is, so there were some impurities which were never thought of, that it can come in metformin, it can come in sartans. And when it was investigated in some of the US studies, they were surprised and they reported there are nitrosamine compound. It's a whole range of compounds. So it's not just one. So nitrosamine can form like so many compounds, and it would be not one. In the same product, there would be 5, 6 nitrosamine impurities would be there. So those were new, and they were in very small traces. Usually what happens, the pharma company goes out and defends it. The limit of this impurity is although new, unidentified. We did our testing, we found it out, and then and we still feel that this is safe. But in this particular case, what happened, nitrosamine impurities were carcinogenic, and many more things which they flagged. It is more technical, I mean, like might not be my part also what all would were the reasons what US flagged. To my best knowledge, it was onco related, what they had flagged, that this was carcinogenic, and the industry was not able to justify that, that limit what was there, which was very sub therapeutic kind of. But US had its own justification with some studies that this is carcinogenic, and they had to recall entire batches. So now, I mean, like even ranitidine got nitrosamine impurity. So see, the bottom line is you can read out this what happened with this impurity. There is enough data set available on the net. What happened with nitrosamine, curicalua, what happened, and all this. What I mean to say is now this can be, I mean, like I should not quote in the session like this was done intentionally, or but over the time we have seen such type of things coming up from the US all of a sudden in 4 or 5 years. That was my whole gist. So this has started mushrooming up. Does that answers?
Okay, so there's another question from one of the fourth year students. He's saying that now most of the companies are only hiring for medical coders and medical scribes. So what is the future in medical scribing?
Okay, okay. So see, pharmacovigilance is one area wherein mean like I don't have my in depth, so it would be wrong if I comment more onto that what happened in that. So I should not take it actually. So pharmacovigilance I have never got into. I know a couple of bit, but I don't have an hand-on experience and never worked on that. Yeah, sorry, I cannot address that
Yeah.
one. Yeah.
Hey, Kirti ma'am, can I ask you to unmute one of the students, Anand Mishra? He just raised his hand, I suppose.
Yes, ma'am. Still.
Yeah, Adarsh, please carry on.
Good evening, sir. My first question to you is, what can a fresher do to select their job field? As you just said that the companies don't hire fresher for higher post and higher process. So what should they do that for?
Thanks, others, I think, right? Yeah. So see, first is see some of the basic things what we used to do at our times is read the LinkedIn profiles very closely. So look at the LinkedIn, go on LinkedIn. First of all, make your a very good LinkedIn profile with whatever you have in hand, and read out LinkedIn profiles of other candidates who have moved from either I mean like whatever sort of companies visit your campus, and you know your seniors would have been working in that. You look for a similar profile on LinkedIn and see how the people have progressed. So you'll get an idea like what was that, whether they would have done some additional training, additional course, or something you will find in there, or after taking this first opportunity, how were they able to shape the future curve on this. So accordingly, that's one place wherein, and you try to reach out to them, you try to connect them. And so nowadays if you just go out and post your resume or something on the job portals, that doesn't works that quickly. So it's always the reference which work. And I see, so just an example, once I mean like for my wife I was trying something, and I wrote an email to Kiran Majumdar Shaw. You'd be surprised, she replied me, and it was Biocon. And so just because I wrote to HR and no one responded, I wrote to her and I wrote that, so we want to try for an interview, and we were lucky enough that she wrote an email back, and then she marked a couple of guys. And there was, although she didn't pass through that time, but right now she works for Biocon, but that's a later story. But all I mean to say is, even people are very responsive on LinkedIn, even the seniors. Don't be shy on but you cannot ask like I see a lot of people, you have to be specific on what you're asking. If you ask them, if you have an opening, please let me know. I mean, like I also get so many queries of this sort on LinkedIn. I say hi and hello, but like I cannot address that because see, my role is something, and I might not be looking at my job portal. And then it's an exercise for me. Keep what college you are, what is your role, and where you will fit in. Then I'll have to go and look at my job portal. So I'll have to do what actually you had to do. So I never, no one actually can entertain such type of query. Sir, you have an relevant opening for me. Please let me know. But what's relevant for you, that only you know, someone else will not do that for you. So you need to just go to that company website, look at, there are 5 openings. Whenever you are writing to someone, write with the job opening. Hey sir, this is this opening and this is for fresher. And see, there are no bypasses. If the opening reads there has to be 2 years experience, 1 or 2 years is okay. If it is they are saying 1 or 2 years, they are ambitious. You can apply for this. They will take freshers. But if it is like 5 years and you apply for it, it's a clear no. So what I would say, be specific. Write a very targeted query on LinkedIn to you add them and you write them. So I'm sure that works.
Sir, one more question is there. As there is a bulk of traffic in the job field, so if a fresher want to go with their own business, will it be mandatory to do job, or they can start with the business directly?
See, my personal, this is a very personal question. So like if it has to be, my family business is retail wholesale. So like I always wanted to take that and go, but I think it's always better to join corporate if you get a chance. And because there are two things. One element is you'll see how the business runs, and how it, because as a person also you evolve when we work in a corporate. I mean, like when I joined in, when I look at myself from a fresher to 5 years later, that so I've changed as in person, not in terms of what knowledge I gained, what work I do, but as in person, working with so many professionals, having a debate, a discussion wherein I have become more open to listen to the out of box thought. Earlier I was very orthodox. I didn't I mean, like if someone like challenged me, I used to take it very offensive. But now I see I'm a better listener. That maybe the industry made me so. So you will evolve as a person, I would say, and that will help you in your business. And or else if you start a business right away, I mean, like you'll not get a chance to go back to the industry again. So this is my personal view on this.
Thank you, Abhishek. Like, there's one more question that why do like low opportunities exist for freshers in QA? One of the students asked. I guess like he was asking just after the graduation, I suppose.
Low opportunities. If I heard correctly.
That's what he.
Okay.
Yeah, that is what he's thinking. That as a fresher, there are lesser opportunities in the field of QA, quality assurance.
Okay. Okay. Correct. See. Very relevant question, in fact. So QA in terms of is quality assurance. If you will see that, you will find a lot of opportunity in QC, because chances of doing mistake there is like, okay, QA is something wherein you you prepare yourself so that the mistakes don't happen again and again. It's more of preventive thing. So I've seen at my places also, QA people are like always, even at senior and junior level companies usually try for who has a hand-on experience. Who goes in QA? Someone who has done QC. Because end of the day, you have to put a checks and balance. You have to make a SOP. You have to make people follow the SOP. So this will, it's like same thing as going in the sales and becoming a product manager and all. So unless you have a sales experience, you cannot go there. So my answer would be to this is like QA is more of second step to QC. So maybe that's the reason.
Yeah. Thank you. Any other question?
Yeah, Dr. Kumud, I would like to ask a question.
Yeah, please, ma'am. Shilpa, ma'am, please carry on.
Yeah. Abhishek sir, good afternoon. This is Dr. Shilpa. I'm working here in Lloyd Institute only in the pharmacy department. I hope I'm audible to you.
Yes, yes, very much. Please.
Yeah. So first of all, a wonderful session, I must say. Our students are getting benefited from it. Sir, I just have a question as I'm talking from a teacher point of view. Like we can see the digital transformation in pharmaceutical is now the new normal and is here to stay. So how can we as a teacher upskill our students to make them more employable with this new normal?
Yep. So question is very relevant. Maybe I'm not the right speaker to take it, because see, wherever I have seen the technology coming in, so some of maybe I can address this question partially wherever I have used the technology in industry, and maybe other folks would add in there. So like I work for business development and these things. So earlier we used to make Excel presentations and we used to make dashboards. We used to make simple dashboards, and everyone was happy with that. Now the things have changed. So I mean, like now everyone wants SharePoint. Okay, there has to be a micro website. So I mean, like, so for my department, my management wants me like, you should have a micro website wherein you take help of IT, and once someone clicks it, and we'll have a clear picture what's happening, how many deals happening, and everything. So once I shared with the IT team, and then I mean, like, I also need to know about how to use the SharePoint. I mean, like, I cannot give him my expectations unless I know what all is possible. So this is one experience which I had in like so other than the tools which are like macro, Excel, and all that, those are like pastime things. But now all these micro sites which are like SharePoint, and using these in how better you can present the data. This is one. And second is, so I've worked on a lot of databases, be it sales data or prescription data. So usually these data, I mean, like, were very heavy. So so there were always platforms on which these data was put, and you need to download and get it. So now what has happened, so there are some very fancy platforms coming up which are like very easy to download and work upon. But end of the day, this would be done by IT professional. But you need to be somewhere in between that. So even if the institute wants to add it, you institute can put some courses, some understanding on what are the tools which are being used, be it SharePoint, be it some data upload tools. The students should know like what these tools are, so that they can put up their requirement properly to the IT teams. Anywhere it is, even if it is for the sales team, e-detailing, what we say. So it's end of the day, the IT guy who would be making it, the e-detailing portal and everything. But to put your requirement, I think all the tools which are being used in pharma industry, someone needs to collate it, and at least the team needs to see what are the dimensions, what is possible, what is not possible in this. So I think that would be helpful enough.
Thank you so much, sir. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, Kirti ma'am, there is one more like a query. Shoaib Aslam, could you just please unmute him? He
Sure,
wants
ma'am.
to ask some question.
Ma'am, this said Shoaib Alam.
Yeah.
And my question is that actually I started this course because I want to start my own business. But can you tell me the easiest way to start my business? If I start business first, or should I start a job first? So that's my that is my that is the confusion for me. Should I start business first, or should I start job first? So
Okay.
can you please clear this? Or if I start my business, so what would be the easiest way to start the business? So
Okay.
that's all I want to ask.
Okay. Okay. First of all, I appreciate the question, and I love the entrepreneurs who are entrepreneurs by thought and mind. So thanks for that. So good. See, one is you need to answer me few of the yes or no's. One is do you belong from a family, business family?
Yes, sir. Business
Oh,
family.
that's good.
So
So
not sir, not sir, no sir. Yes, sir.
no,
Business family. My two other brothers are already dentist.
no, no. So my whole idea is like your family is into business or they are into service.
Sir, they are into business. They are dentists. They have their own clinic.
Okay, so actually, like I don't consider doctors to be business, because it's like their profession and they are doing it. I'll not consider CA for business. So because see, when you will do a business, unfortunately, other than opening a pharmacy store, we will have to think out of box to do business. When you say me that I want to start a business, I'll think from that you'll have to manage everything, and you will try to make it big. So best, so always it goes like if you get an experience somewhere, but see, if you have made up your mind, and with the crunch in the market and scarcity in job, if you think that way, that's the best thing. So see, the easiest is, as of now, you see a lot of chain pharmacy going on, which is going on like e-pharmacy, 1mg. These are one space which you can explore. Then there are a couple of more spaces, like you see now, like there is although not a very good thing, PCD pharma you would have heard about, right? That's called monopoly pharma business. You get your product manufactured at third party, and
Yes,
you
sir.
start to create your market at your place with a set of doctors. These are some of the quick easy things which I am telling you. There is of
Okay, sir.
course a bigger thing. Government has come with a lot of incentive. If you're looking for something investing kind of, then you can look at that government projects. There are multiple projects as of now, and which are not so huge. If you can make a good project file in API and intermediates, and you look for people who are coming together, that's also not a very difficult task to do. So some of them had tried also. So that's fine. You can, I mean, like, see it's what would be the area of interest and what I should start with. I mean, like, that would require a bigger discussion and what it would be. But some of the things which is coming top of my mind, I can say that. But yes, I should give you a heads up. If you're thinking, just go out and start it.
Okay, sir. Thank you so much. And sir, one more thing, sir. Sir, actually, my plan is very big. I'm thinking that I would open my pharmacy, and I will set up a dental setup with that, so that my elder brothers can come and visit there. So it should be good, or it should be. I'm so confused about it.
So
So
you
can you clear
plan
it?
to set up a pharmacy which would have like a pharmacy, typical pharmacy store, which will house medicine, and adjacent to that would be your friends and family who are in the dental or the profession, medical profession, something like that.
हाँ जी
Yes,
बच्चे.
sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yeah, yes, ma'am.
Okay, okay.
Ma'am, I
So,
don't know how I muted myself. So
acha,
that's, sir.
okay.
I was saying that if I start my pharmacy, I my own pharmacy, so I can I can make another cabin for dental setup, so that my elder brothers can come and visit there for patients.
Shoaib, I
Okay,
guess like
okay.
you have so many interrelated queries, and like that would be sorted later because we're running short of
Okay,
time.
it's
I'll
okay.
Like,
It's
just
okay.
yeah.
conclude him with a line. Sorry, Dr. Kumar. So good, but I'll in one line I'll say, you see, it's good, but try to make think about even bigger than that. So this
Okay,
brick
okay.
and mortar model is like very limited now. You look beyond, just look at something what a guy recently took a good funding from Tata Group, and he has done nothing. He has just talked to a couple of
Okay.
manufacturers, try something in generic. I just missed his name, and he didn't had any capital of its own. So I'll
Okay.
say, you look at something even bigger, and I don't see this to be much bigger. Okay, so yeah, that's my take on that.
Sir, actually,
I hope like Abhishek sir won't mind sharing his email ID, and well as he also said that you should be connected with the LinkedIn, as what always like our group director ma'am also says, grow your network. So Abhishek, like
Yes.
our like group director ma'am, Dr. Vanna Arora CT is amidst us. She's here. Ma'am, please would you like to add something?
Yeah. Hi, Kumar. Thanks. Thanks, Abhishek. It was a wonderful session. And I could see how the session moved from technical more so into a career counseling thing. And I believe it happened more so because the students are so keen on learning from the people who are in the corporate and in the industry, because we believe they bring with themselves so much experience. And I could see the ease with which you transformed the session from a technical to faculty queries to a career counseling session as well. So wonderfully done, and one of the few sessions that come from the pharma industry which we really enjoy. It was relevant to the faculty, and I'm sure very relevant to the students. So thanks, Abhishek, for that. And also we may engage after this session also. Thanks, Kumud, for bringing Abhishek on this platform, and we can connect for more sessions, maybe something on a regular visiting basis, and we can definitely take it up after this. So congratulations, and thanks so much for being with us today.
Thanks a lot for giving me this opportunity to, and the audience has been great. I mean, like, so many questions and answering them. I mean, like, at least they're open to, and they are talking to me, like that's too good, too good. Yeah, thanks a lot again.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, sir. So like Abhishek, like just a token of gesture, we have a like a certificate for appreciation. Just give me a sec. So this is for you, like the e-certificate, and we'll be sending the physical copy as well. We are really thankful to have you, and like as sir said, I guess students would take up the message, the one which you told about the incident of the train guy, jo chadega wahi badega. So and I hope the students will try to search more the like sites you told about, the CRO, CTRI, and they'll be keeping updated so that they get good like prospects in the further life. Thank you, Abhishek, for being with us.
Thanks, Dr.
Thank you,
Madhu,
ma'am.
and like for reaching out and managing all this. I mean, like, I'm very thankful to you all. And the students can reach me out. I'll share my coordinates with you, and they can discuss some things which have been left out. Yeah, thanks a lot.